Although Li Shuer was just standing beside Yuan Ziyu, but the way others looked at her seemed to have determined that she was an abandoned woman. She stared fiercely at Huang Yueli, recalling that just a few days ago, how ecstatic she was from receiving young Master Yuan's invitation as she went around to brag. She never could have imagined that it hadn't been that long before she was slapped on the face alive. Huang Yueli felt her gaze filled with hatred and turned back, curling her lips with a smirk of ridicule. When Li Shuer saw that, she almost fainted with anger. Huang Yueli had accomplished her motive and was not willing to stay for long. Especially after finding out the feelings that Yuan Ziyu had for her, she didn't want to get struck with this trouble, so she replied, "I appreciate young Master Yuan's good intentions, but I'm someone who is used to being carefree. My staying here might just offend even more people. Moreover, I'm still busy with my cultivation, so I'd be making a move first." "Miss Bai, please wait." Yuan Ziyu wasn't willing to let her leave and hurriedly chased up to her saying, "You're my valued guest, so in what way would you offend anyone? Moreover, we will be holding some mini tournaments as highlights during the banquet, so why not stay and take a look?" Li Shuer saw Yuan Ziyu taking the initiative to beseech Huang Yueli to stay and felt even more upset, so she couldn't hold back any longer and walked right up. "Young Master Yuan, since Miss Bai is not willing, then why must you force her against her will? Her heart is totally leaning against the heart of cultivation, and she probably don't think much of the other practitioners who would only make merry, assuming that only those hedonistic children who are not interested in improving themselves will attend this kind of banquet. Even if you manage to make her stay, it will only make her feel more disgusted." The thing she said was filled with malice and was extremely scheming. On the surface, it seemed like she was helping Huang Yueli to persuade Yuan Ziyu not to force her to stay. But in reality, she was actually drawing more hatred towards Huang Yueli from all sides. Everyone present at the banquet were all making merry, but Li Shuer made Huang Yueli seem like she was above everyone and wasn't interested in all these. Nor could she be bothered to make friends with them, hence she wasn't willing to stay for the banquet. Didn't that meant that Huang Yueli treated them with disdain as beneath contempt, as she couldn't be bothered to get associated with these people, which was why she wanted to leave. Those present were all descendants of Sky Cloud City's large families and had statuses and abilities. If Huang Yueli were to offend all of them at one go, then in future it would be difficult for her to stay in Sky Cloud City. Perhaps even those who were quick-tempered would make trouble for her. How would Huang Yueli not know what Li Shuer was scheming? Her footsteps halted as she smiled icily at Li Shuer. "I cannot take responsibility for the words that Senior Sisterly had said. Since that's the case, then I shall stay on." Yuan Ziyu immediately broke out in delight as he smiled. "That's great, Miss Bai, that you're able to stay. Men, quickly prepare Miss Bai's seat." Li Shuer went into a blank, but following that she clenched hard on her teeth as she realized that she had moved the rock to smash on her own feet. Originally she was prepared to use words to force Huang Yueli to leave and at the same time, spoil her reputation to make Yuan Ziyu and the others believed that although Huang Yueli's ability was strong, but she was an arrogant and brainless person. Whereas while Huang Yueli was not around, she would be able to display her good traits in front of young Master Yuan so as to reattract his attention. However, the result was Huang Yueli had gone with the flow and stayed on. How would this do? If she stayed on and attracted Yuan Ziyu's attention, then how would young Master Yuan even be able to notice her, Li Shuer? Huang Yueli ignored her embarrassed look as she slowly walked past her and proceeded towards the seat which Yuan Ziyu had prepared for her. Li Shuer turned around and almost went into another fit of anger. "You can also listen on." Huang Yueli's seat was actually high up on the stage and was the nearest to Yuan Ziyu's seat. That was the number one guest's position. Only guests of exceptional status was able to take this seat. Although Li Shuer was Yuan Ziyu's female chaperone, she was allowed to sit next to Yuan Ziyu and seemed like the position was much higher than Huang Yueli's seat. But everyone knew that this was only because of young Master Yuan's face. But the seat which Huang Yueli was seated on was a representation of identity and ability. Li Shuai was so enraged that she gritted her teeth. This wretched lass, on what basis did she deserve such treatment? Her background was not even comparable to Li Shuai's. Apparently, not only Li Shuai had this kind of thinking. On seeing Huang Yueli's seat, many of them shot her a weird look. Everyone looked upon the seating arrangement as a very important thing during this kind of large family's formal banquets. This was all arranged based on one's identity and ability, and although Huang Yueli's ability naturally was strong, but to say that she could take the first seat made quite a number of people felt uncomfortable. However, on account of young Master Yuan's face, not many dared to stand out and oppose immediately. The banquet officially started. After 3 rounds of drinking, quite a number of them were tipsy, so the mini-tournaments, which was the highlight of the banquet, was about to start officially. To spar on slightly official banquets was a tradition in Soaring Heaven's continent, and when Huang Yueli was in South Yu Kingdom, the royal banquet which she had attended was so as well. This time, those attending the banquet were all Celestial Light Academy students, and all of them were all outstanding practitioners. Moreover, who didn't want to reveal a hand in front of Sky Cloud City's largest family's descendant, young Master Yuan? If they performed well, perhaps they might be scouted by the Yuan family and soar up into the skies. Because of this, many people had joined in quickly and challenged each other. Huang Yueli was seated in the first seat and propping up her chin, she looked on enthusiastically at the battles below. It must be said that the level of these battles was simply a difference between heaven and earth as compared to those that she had seen at South Yu Kingdom's Peach Blossom Banquet. Sky Cloud City was famed for plenty of talented practitioners, and several battles were worth watching. Celestial Light Academy was really the #1 academy in Sky Cloud City to be able to recruit so many outstanding students. Huang Yueli was sighing with emotion when she suddenly realized that her surroundings had gone into a weird silence. Not knowing when, the entire banquet hall had turned completely silent as everyone's gazes were thrown towards her side. She was stunned for a moment as she raised up her head. In the middle of the battle stage stood an 18 or 19 young man as he crossed his arms and looked at her coldly. His eyes were long and narrow and his lips were thin, which added some senses of evilness to his looks. He raised his chin as he spoke with an arrogant expression, "By Ruoli, aren't you very arrogant and wild today? Think you're Celestial Light Academy's #1 expert? Since that's the case, do you dare to compete against me?" Huang Yueli's lips slowly curled upwards. "Why? You wish to challenge me?" "Challenge?" The young man replied coldly, "Do you think I'm challenging you? Looks like I've forgotten to introduce myself. My name is Lu Ziju, martial arts stage ranked 3rd. He reported his own family name with a cold and solemn look, thinking that perhaps Huang Yueli would reveal a shocked or anxious expression. Celestial Light Academy's martial arts stage top 10 ranking practitioners were all famous characters in the academy and one which all the students knew. As for him, Lu Ziju, even amongst the top 10 geniuses, he was one of the most outstanding ones. In Celestial Light Academy, his ranking was just 1 place below Yuan Ziyu, and it was because of the mysterious senior brotherly which made his ranking fell to 3rd place. You can also listen on. But even so, Lu Ziju had self-professed that his reputation was one of Celestial Light Academy's brilliant top exponents, and the minute he declared his name, he would be able to make anyone, other than Yuan Ziyu, broke out into a cold sweat. Saying that, his gaze was affixed onto Huang Yueli. Huang Yueli had indeed gave an astonished expression. "This means you and Lu Zi are." Lu Ziju gave an evil smile. "He, you finally understand now. Lu Zi is indeed my sister, and although she is someone who is really unworthy of respect, but you have beaten up my sister in front of so many people, and that had caused our Lu family to lose face. Even if young Master Yuan doesn't hold you accountable, I cannot let you off. Today, I will definitely not be merciful." Huang Yueli understood in a flash, so that's the case. I was just thinking, and your sister looked slightly alike. Are you sure you want to challenge me? There's absolutely no need to. Lu Ziju swept her one glance. Why? Afraid? Dare not accept my challenge. Upon hearing that Huang Yueli's words seemed to have some intention of rejection, he started to become complacent. He knew that this wretched lass would be afraid. Would not dare to accept his challenge. To be honest, if it wasn't for the fact that young Master Yuan was so interested in this lass, he wouldn't drive her to such a tight corner, but he would definitely need to regain Lu family's reputation. If this lass did not dare to accept the challenge and was willing to kneel down and officially apologize, then he would forcefully accept it. Lu Ziju was just about to add on something to show off his Lu family's power. But he heard Huang Yueli responded, I think you must be mistaken. I just wanted to say that since you value Lu family's reputation so much, then why would you come and challenge me? There was a reason for me to beat up Lu Zi, and moreover her innate talent is just a so-so, so I'm assuming that her status in the family isn't very high, so even if she was beaten, it isn't too embarrassing as well. But you're different. If even you are beaten up by me, both members of the Lu family were beaten up at one go, wouldn't it be double embarrassing? Oh, no, not only 2 times. You're the #1 genius that the Lu family is nurturing, so your share of embarrassment would be much more than Li Zi's. Lu Ziju went into a blank as his eyes opened up wide, not believing his ears in that instance. What did you say? Huang Yueli laughed as she replied in a lazy manner, What? Your ears are too well. As a practitioner, if your hearing isn't good, how big of a capability could you have? Lu Ziju was so infuriated that he almost jumped up. Ever since he had climbed up to martial stage arts rank number 3, no one had dared to speak in such a manner to him. Even young Master Yuan himself had always valued his as his right-hand man and wouldn't dare to offend him easily, treating him politely normally. Lu Ziju had long decided that besides Yuan Ziyu, no one else in Celestial Light Academy could possibly exceed him in terms of ability. However, this lass who looked like she was merely 14 or 15 was actually so overbearing and arrogant, as though already deciding that he was totally not her opponent. On what basis did she say that? Lu Ziju's glare became even more sinister as he lowered his tone. Good, very good, extremely good. Looks like Miss Bai you're full of self-confidence and think that you will be able to defeat me. Looks like you've been muddled by those useless trash, thinking that martial arts stage's top 3's ability is the same as Lazy Chu, that piece of trash. Since that's the case, don't blame me for being impolite. Even if you're young Master Yuan's valued guest, I must give you an unforgettable lesson. Saying that, he clasped his fist into his other hand towards Yuan Ziyu. Young Master Yuan, it's not that I don't want to give you face, but this Miss Bai is simply too much. You can also listen on. Yuan Ziyu frowned when he heard what he said. Originally, he wished that Huang Yueli and Lu Ziju would not have any conflict. He was most sure of Lu Ziju's ability, and within the entire Celestial Light Academy, the person whom he had fought against the most number of times was him. Although Lu Ziju and him was completely incomparable, but among the same age practitioners, he was indeed worthy of the title of a peerless genius because his ability itself had easily created a huge gap between himself and the 4th-rank practitioner and below. Huang Yueli was able to defeat Lei Zichu, so that showed that her ability naturally was strong enough, but as compared to Lu Ziju, no one could tell who had the lead. He had intended to explain and smooth the matter over by stopping the battle. But he hadn't expected that Huang Yueli to be so self-confident that not only had she accepted the challenge, she even added fuel to the fire by provoking Lu Ziju. This made Yuan Ziyu extremely surprised. In this way, he didn't really want to stop this battle because he also wanted to know if Huang Yueli's ability was really as strong as what she had showed. How much value was she really worth, and if she was able to become a top exponent who was just below him? Yuan Ziyu thought for a moment and said, the battles during the banquet are casual challenges and there is no restriction on who you are challenging, so what's the talk about not giving me face about? Only, during this banquet, it's not a life and death battle, so will the both of you please start off leniently and not have any situation where either side would incur any serious injury with the main aim as friendly sparring. Lu Ziju sneered, young Master Yuan, I cannot guarantee this. After all, when we really cross hands, the blades have no eyes. This, Yuan Ziyu knew that his good friend was really enraged as he tried to persuade further. However, Huang Yueli also responded, that's right, blades have no eyes, so minor accidents are unavoidable. This made Yuan Ziyu wordless as even Lu Ziju looked over with surprise. You really have great guts. Too bad you're just overestimating yourself. Huang Yueli replied smilingly, really? Don't be too full of yourself. Since you're sure that you can win me, then let's make a bet for good luck, what do you think? You want to place a bet? Lu Ziju was even more surprised. From what he thought, Huang Yueli was bound to lose for sure. Earlier she was so full of herself. It was probably because she had underestimated him and also because of face. But now she even wanted to bet with him. What kind of joke was that? Was she really so dumb till this extent? Or did she really thought he, Lu Ziju, was some pushover? At that instant, Lu Ziju was so enraged that he couldn't manage his thoughts properly, but very quickly, he trembled with a start and started to become alert. No, something was not right, this should be one of that wretched lass's underhanded methods. She wanted to agitate him to make him lose his proper sense of judgment, which would eventually lead him to expose his weakness. This lass really had sinister thoughts and luckily he had discovered it early. Otherwise, he might just fall into her trap. Thinking of this, Lu Ziju started to calm down as he sneered, alright, since you want to bet, I'm alright with it too. But what can a lass from a small country like you possibly bring out to gamble? If the stakes are too low, then I'm not willing to play along. He self-professed that he had seen through Huang Yueli's scheme, but never would he had thought that Huang Yueli really wasn't what he had imagined. Her train of thoughts were very, very simple. If she had to waste energy entering a fight, even if it was just 1 or 2 strikes, it would also require her to spend some energy. An unscrupulous businesswoman like her would not wake up early if there were no profits involved. So if she was not able to gain any advantages from making a move, then she would have made a loss. Then she won't even do it. Seeing that Lu Ziju agreed to her terms, her face was beaming with a brilliant smile immediately. You can also listen on. Her expression changed just too fast. Lu Ziju took a look and immediately the alarms in his heart started ringing. Even though he felt that he probably wouldn't lose, but why was she smiling so happily? Could there be some plot? Huang Yueli was all smiles as she replied, I'd never imagined that young Master Lu's thinking is so in line with mine. I also feel that if the stakes are too low, then what's the point of the gamble? Since we're going to bet, then let's make it a big one. Lu Ziju sneered, you make it sound so simple. Then would Miss Bai please tell me what you're preparing to put up as a stake? This wretched lass really made her words sound so beautiful. Unfortunately, a pauper was still a pauper. What valuable stuff could she possibly had? Could it be that she would bring out all the items that she had used her star currency to exchange as stakes? Lu Ziju was not the only one who thought that way. All the others had the same train of thought as everyone wanted to see what stakes she could possibly offered. No matter what she brought out, it was just incomparable with what the second largest family in Sky Cloud City, Lu family's belongings. Yuan Ziyu had even decided that if the item which Huang Yueli brought out was unpresentable, then the slap on her face would be too much to bear, so he was prepared to give Huang Yueli a gift as the stake. This kind of solicitation, if offered at the right time and place, he wasn't afraid that she would not accept it. Under everyone's witness, Huang Yueli flipped her wrist and brought out something from the Sky Phoenix ring. Just one look and many people cried out in surprise immediately. What? What's that? Am I seeing things? That profound armament's grade seems very high. At least, 4th tier upper grade. You didn't see wrongly. I feel that it's like a 5th tier profound armament. How? How could this be possible? Yuan Ziyu and Lu Ziju also looked shocked as they saw the stake which Huang Yueli placed on the table. That was a 5th tier lower grade profound weapon, and it was not just one piece, but an entire set. A total of 12 flying daggers, and every single one was as thin as a cicada's wings. The color and luster was transparent, and even against the backlight, it was almost impossible to see the vestige. So once this was used, it could really be said to be invisible and untraceable. Just one piece of 5th tier profound weapon was priceless. Moreover, this was an entire set made out of 12 flying daggers. Only the words, valuable treasure, could be used to describe this item. Even the successors of Sky Cloud City's large families, like Yuan Ziyu or Lu Ziju, did not have a single piece of profound armament which was comparable to this item. After all, even Celestial Light Academy's profound weapon chambers only have a few pieces of 5th tier profound armaments, and the grade was the lowest while the quality was one of the worst. At that moment, they were not able to say even one word. A few moments later, Lu Ziju regained his senses and he was filled with excitement. The reason was because he was a practitioner who used flying daggers as his weapon. To him, that set of profound weapon could be said to be made just for him. If he was able to get it, then his potential would definitely leap to another level. He might even had a possibility of defeating young Master Yuan. Even in his wildest dreams, he would never had dreamt of getting such a good item. But now that it suddenly appeared before his eyes, it was like a huge cake dropping down from heaven. Moreover, to get it wasn't difficult at all. Because the new student in front of him was just too young, and even her cultivation level was not comparable to his. So if he used some special technique, then naturally he would obtain it easily. Thinking of this, Lu Ziju was unable to control his feelings of excitement. Huang Yueli asked, "How's my steak?" "Enough?" Lu Ziju hurriedly responded, "Enough. More than enough. Let's stake on this then. You can also listen on." Huang Yueli smiled as she replied, "Then. Young Master Lu, what are you intending to place as stake?" When she said this, it made Lu Ziju perplexed. Initially he had felt that a country bumpkin Huang Yueli would not have anything valuable, so anything that he took out casually would be able to easily dismiss her. In the end, the situation was totally different from what he expected. The young lass had took out such a treasure. A set of 5th tier profound weapon. What kind of treasure would be had to offer to be worthy of this profound weapon's value? Box novel. Lu Ziju pondered for some time and was indecisive. Huang Yueli sniggered secretly and showed a kind-hearted look as she asked, "Young Master Lu, do you have any difficulty? If you feel that the 5th tier profound armament's value is too high, I can change another stake." "Change another one? How would that do?" Lu Ziju hurriedly stopped her, "Don't. No need to change. The 5th tier profound armament as a stake is just right. How could the value be too high? It's only that I haven't decided what to set as stake only, such a suitable profound weapon for himself. How would he let her change it?" This was an excellent piece of profound armament which had not even appeared before in Sky Cloud City's largest auction. Moreover, he himself had exaggerated earlier, saying that the stakes should not be too low. If he agreed to change now, wouldn't it be expression that he agreed to Huang Yueli's words that he could not afford such expensive stakes? In this case, he would be dragging down Lu family's face. His thoughts flew quickly in his mind. The profound weapon which he was currently using was a 4th-tier mid-grade weapon, and his other profound armament and profound artifact were all 4th-tier lower grade. Among the younger generation, he was considered as tycoon level. But this entire set of equipment was not even worth 10% of Huang Yueli's flying dagger set. Even if he were to bring out all his entire spirit stones, it would also not be enough. At this point, a thought suddenly flashed past his mind as he recalled that he was carrying the Lu family's family heirloom cultivation method. This was a set of earth-grade upper-level cultivation method. The power was extremely strong. And it was one of Lu family's famous cultivation methods. This set of exquisite cultivation methods was not available in Celestial Light Academy's scripture depository, and it was priceless as well. So to use it as a stake against Huang Yueli's flying dagger set, it should be more than enough. But if his family members were to find out that he actually used the exquisite cultivation method which was handed down in the family for generations as a stake, then he would have no way of reconciliation. Lu Ziju was still hesitating when he heard Huang Yueli said, "Young Master Lu, have you considered already? Time spent brewing a pot of tea has passed, and just a small matter like that requires so much time. Are you regretting and not intending to bet anymore? Then it's all right. After all, I'm not like you people in the Lu family. Such a small matter and unable to forgive and forget. If you don't dare, then let's forget it." This was said so beautifully. The other party had regretted, and not only did she not persist, she even didn't require him to apologize. Anyone would stick their thumbs up and praise her, saying she was magnanimous. But in Lu Ziju's ears, it felt like a resounding tight slap on his face. He wasn't able to consider any further as he clenched his teeth and responded, "Who says I haven't considered carefully? I've already decided that my stake will be Earth-grade cultivation method, a divine martial record." What? Divine martial record? Young Master Lu is actually going to use divine martial record as a stake. Has he gone mad? Why? What is the divine martial record? Divine martial record is Lu family's family heirloom cultivation method. Only direct descendants are able to gain access to it. It's not even passed down to the branches. Young Master Lu is actually going to use this as a stake. You can also listen on. Didn't you hear what they were talking about earlier? The profound armament that Bai Ruoli brought out is 5th tier. Moreover, it's an entire set. Besides a divine martial record, young Master Lu probably doesn't have any stake of similar value, right? But, that's too rash. That is his family heirloom cultivation method. If he were to lose it, how is young Master Lu going to account for it? Have you gone silly? Would young Master Lu not know the severity of this? It is exactly because of the battle, which is why he brought it out. He probably is 100% sure that he will win. As long as he wins this battle, he will not make any losses and he will get back his cultivation method. So it's like this. In actual fact, young Master Lu's ability is definitely much stronger than Bai Ruoli's. Looks like the person who is dumb is not young Master Lu but Bai Ruoli. However, this Bai Ruoli is really wealthy. Is she really born in a small country? She's actually able to bring out an entire set of 5th tier profound armament. Even the number 1 genius in large families are not as wealthy as her. The crowd were discussing fervently, each sticking to their own opinions. The only thing which they agreed on was the wonderment on Huang Yueli's wealth and influence. Although they were all large families' descendants, but most of them, before today, had not even been able to see a 5th tier profound armament. After Lu Ziju had finished what he said, he was first flustered as he regretted his rashness. But subsequently, he started to calm down. Right, no matter what he used as a stake, it was still the same. As long as he won the battle, nothing would be lost. As for the young lass in front of him, how could she possibly win him? This was a huge opportunity for him. He didn't need to spend any money and he could easily obtain a set of profound weapon. He laughed delightfully as he placed the divine martial record onto the table. The stake has been placed, so will Brother Yuan be our witness. Let's start this battle. No problem. Huang Yueli smiled as she stood up. Yuan Ziyu was having the jitters as he felt that this entire matter had broken away from his control and the stakes were too high. Box novel. He had assumed that both of them would at most placed a few hundred thousands of lower-grade spirit stones as a bet, as this amount for large families' descendants was just a small matter. But now, one had come out with a 5th-tier profound weapon while the other had offered his family heirloom cultivation method. If any one of them lost, it was a huge loss which no one was able to handle. And since this battle had happened on the premises of his Yuan family, if something happened, he would definitely be implicated. But at this present moment, there was no way to stop this. The entire banquet hall's atmosphere was fired up as everyone's feelings were lifted. On one hand was the new top student who had newly advanced into the martial arts stage top 10. On the other hand was a veteran top exponent, who had resided as martial arts stage rank number 2 for a long time. The two strengths were fighting against each other and was already an attention grabber which involved huge stakes. The two of them walked down from the stage and stopped. Lu Ziju suddenly spoke out, "Miss Bai, I can tell that you're an expert, and since the gambling stakes are so high, if we were to fight as per normal tournaments, then it'd be so boring. Usually among large families' descendants like us, if we were to stake huge bets, then the difficulty of the battle would also increase. I wonder if you dare to accept." Huang Yueli's brows rose as her lips curled up into a slight smile. "Young Master Lu means, how should we compete?" Lu Ziju replied, "You should have seen Celestial Light Academy's Plum Blossom Dome, right? This kind of battle would be to fight it out directly at the Plum Blossom Dome. And to add on to the challenge, both parties must blindfold their eyes." Oh. Huang Yueli seemed lost in thought. You can also listen on. Celestial Light Academy indeed had a Plum Blossom Dome, and that was an array which practitioners used to train on their movements. In the array, there were a total of 36 Plum Blossom Dome poles. It raised high into the sky and each pole was at least 10 meters from the ground. Once the array was activated, each Plum Blossom Dome pole would vary in terms of height as it randomly stretched and shrunk at will. Those practitioners who were training at this place would be required to be agile and move around these ever-changing Plum Blossom Dome poles, otherwise they would fall down the poles. As time passes, the speed the poles took to contract would increase as the practitioners would require faster reaction time. The longer one stays in the array, it only meant that one's movements were much better. Now, Lu Ziju had suggested to battle it out on the Plum Blossom Dome, so that meant both parties must have exceptionally accomplished movements, otherwise even before they started, they would fell from the Plum Blossom Dome. Not only this, they must also avoid the opponent's attacks and simultaneously think of ways to defeat the other party. This difficulty was already very high, but Lu Ziju had raised an even more difficult request. Both parties would have to blindfold their eyes. Just keeping their eyes open to train on the Plum Blossom Dome was tough enough, what more about blindfolding their eyes? Under the circumstances where they were not able to see, to maintain one's balance and not fall down from the poles, to most practitioners, this was an impossible mission. Moreover, they still had to fight against each other. How was this going to be done? The banquet hall went into a bustle once again. Young Master Lu actually requested to fight it out on the Plum Blossom Dome. How is this possible? Why is it not possible? I've heard many people say that young Master Lu is most adept in movements, and moreover, he often utilizes the Academy's Plum Blossom Dome to train. Not only does he blindfold his eyes, he sometimes even ties his hands behind his back. This is his speciality. Ah! Young Master Lu is so powerful. But how about Bairuoli? Surely she cannot be adept at Plum Blossom done as well, right? About this, it can only be said that young Master Lu's move is very sinister. As for this, could that Bairuoli really be so strong? Young Master Lu's sinister moves had already been used. Lu Ziju also knew that he was very underhanded, but this time, as he had used his family heirloom cultivation method as a stake, he could not afford to lose. So no matter how those present were to treat him with disdain, he also would not bore the risk of losing. On seeing Huang Yueli keeping silent, he was afraid that she would not agree, as he hurriedly added. Miss Bai, don't tell me you're really afraid. Aren't you full of yourself and you don't even think anything of us, the honorary association? Since that's the case, just a mere Plum Blossom dome had already scared you off. He wanted to dare her to provoke Huang Yueli's emotions. Huang Yueli clearly knew what he was up to, as she couldn't help but reveal a smile. Young Master Lu, you don't need to intentionally provoke me. Aren't you just worried about losing? No problem, I'll follow your wishes, so let's fight it out at the Plum Blossom Dome. I will make you concede defeat willingly. After she said that, Lu Ziju started to feel worried again. But no matter how he thought, a special array like the Plum Blossom Dome requires an array master of at least 5th rank and above to set up. This young lass came from a small country, and he gauged that she probably hadn't even seen it before. It was even more impossible that she would be practicing on the Plum Blossom Dome every day. So that was to say that Huang Yueli would definitely lose. She was so pleased with herself as she underestimated him. But later she'd probably not even have the time to cry when she was defeated. You can also listen on. Lu Ziju was worried that she would regret and hurriedly added on, since that's the case, I know Yuan family happens to have the Plum Blossom dun array, so let's go over there to battle. Huang Yueli had no objections. Very quickly, they reached a block of extremely high array, and the banquet spectators had all followed them in anticipation. Huang Yueli raised her head and saw the upright and erect poles as the corners of her lips arched upwards. In her previous life, the amount of effort she had spent on the Plum Blossom Dome had not been lesser than anyone. Moreover, the array that she had used to train in Mythical Flame Palace had been reformed, and the speed of contraction was 10 times faster than the speed in Celestial Light Academy. Not only that, every pole was the thickness of a fingernail and had a small holding area, so if there was just a slight deviation, it would result in her having her head broken and blood flowing. So as compared to this array, which had at least half a meter's thickness, the difference as though sky and earth. Lu Ziju was digging his own grave when he wanted to compete on this. She started regretting not putting in more stakes. Lu Ziju was standing by her right as he said, Junior Sister Bai, let's not waste any more time and start now. Huang Yueli nodded, all right. For the sake of fairness, 2 guards from the Yuan family stood out of line and helped to blindfold them with several layers of black cloth to ensure that they were completely unable to see anything. The minute the guard turned around, Lu Ziju started to move, and leaping upwards, he jumped onto the shortest pole. With that, he skillfully jumped upwards, layer by layer, as he soared upwards continuously. His feet practically did not stop, and it was merely 10 breaths of time when he had already climbed up to the highest pole. Wow! Young Master Lu is so suave. His movements are really awesome. He seems to be floating on top of the poles. How did he do it? He obviously couldn't see a thing, but he was still able to locate each pole's position. The spectators were gasping in awe as their gazes shot towards Huang Yueli. Lu Ziju had struck first, and just showing off a hand like this had shocked the entire audience. In comparison, Huang Yueli's situation had become much more dangerous. Young Master Lu seems to walk on normal grounds when he's on the Plum Blossom Dome. How will this Miss Bai ever compare to him? She will surely lose, right? Isn't that so? She is still standing below, hesitating, probably not even sure how to go up. If this carries on, she might as well directly admit her defeat. Otherwise, if they were really to start the battle, she will only be waiting to be abused. If she suffers any serious injury because of this, it's just not worth it. Although it is like that, but she had already placed such a huge stake, and if she had to admit her loss before they even started. Will she do such a thing? Everyone was discussing about this, but Huang Yueli seemed to not hear anything at all. She waited for Lu Ziju to stop right at the highest plum blossom dome before her lips curled upwards and her figure flashed as she started to move. Huang Yueli tipped her toes and soared into the sky. Her movements were light and swift as she leapt high up using the wind as an advantage, but unlike Lu Ziju, she didn't step accurately onto the first pole. Arg, Bairuoli has not landed properly. Finished, it's finished. The first pole and she landed into empty space. She really doesn't know. Wait, are my eyes playing tricks on me? Heavens, she's going to bang into the wall. Huang Yueli avoided the first pole and didn't even step on the second tallest pole, but directly charged towards the tallest pole. Just as everyone was assuming that she was going to bang into the pole and ended up with blood all over her head when suddenly, a change took place. You can also listen on. Not knowing when the plum blossom dome had been activated, all 32 poles within the array's boundary had started moving and the tallest pole suddenly started to descend. Huang Yueli had just leapt into the sky and the tip of her foot coincidentally stepped onto the descending plum blossom dome. How could this happen? She had landed on it, she really landed on it. What's going on? Wasn't she just about to ram into the pole? Why did that pole suddenly descend? Isn't this too much of a coincidence? It must be a coincidence, right? Her luck's not bad after all. Lu Ziju was just on the descending pole and although he couldn't see, but he could clearly felt the vibrations from the profound energy which came from Huang Yueli when she was moving. Not only had she not rammed into the pole, she had instead leapt onto the pole which he was standing on, pouncing towards his direction. Lu Ziju's heart was extremely shocked. Surely it was impossible. Once the array was activated, even he had no way to predict the changes of the ascend and descend of the plum blossom dome, so how did this lass manage to leap up at the right time? Right, it should be a coincidence, luck. That must be it. This lass's luck isn't too bad, but to become a winner would still require real skills, so basing on luck was just not possible for her to succeed. What use was there in just jumping upwards? He only needed to wait for her to be unsteady before he initiated an attack and he would be able to sweep her down in one strike. Lu Ziju's thoughts were flying swiftly past his mind and he had consecutively thrown out several flying daggers, attacking towards Huang Yueli's upper, middle and lower body. His moves were very fast and accurate and more importantly, the purity of his profound energy was extremely strong. The flyer daggers broke out in space and sped towards Huang Yueli. The spectators below the platform could see it clearly and although Lu Ziju was not able to see, but the direction that he sent his flying daggers had not deviated one bit and had exactly blocked all avenues where Huang Yueli could hide. Moreover, the speed of the flying daggers were so fast. Heavens! She's finished. Under this kind of circumstances, everyone had thought that Huang Yueli was unable to avoid and the best possibility was to avoid her vital organs. She was bound to be hurt and moreover, Lu Ziju would definitely take this opportunity to pursue and attack in order to throw her onto the ground. Huang Yueli seemed to be scared stiff as she remained motionless. Just as the winner and loser was about to be decided. At this moment, that plum blossom dome suddenly moved again and subsequently descended by a huge chunk once again. Huang Yueli's body naturally descended with the pole as the few powerful flying daggers followed the direction of the wind and just narrowly flew past the top of her head by merely an inch of a distance. Although it looked terrifying, but not even one strand of her hair had dropped. Fwa, missed again. The battle at the Plum Blossom Dome is really ever-changing. This time I thought she would definitely be hit, but in the end, changes happened again. This is simply unimaginable. Lu Ziju heard the spectators' discussions and realized that his ultimate strike missed its target. He was extremely frustrated and at the same time, he could not take it lying down. What on earth happened? Why did the poles suddenly descend again as this fraudulent array saved that lass's life once again? Her luck was just too ridiculously good. Just as Lu Ziju was feeling melancholic, he suddenly felt a huge profound energy coming from the top of his head. I say. Young Master Lu. You're in the middle of a battle, so how can you go into a daze? Earlier you had already struck, so now, it's my turn. A young lady's sweet voice resounded. You can also listen on. WH. What's the situation? Lu Ziju had not completely responded in time before he felt a pain on his head and suddenly his body uncontrollably fell from behind. A pong sound was heard and his body seemed to fly out at a slanted angle, just happening to ram straight into a rising pole. As reflux from this pole's uprising surge of power, his whole body was thrown upwards again and at an arc, he flew in the middle of the sky and continued to descend downwards. This time, he had coincidentally fell onto the second pole, and this pole, not knowing when, also started to rise and he had once again thrown up into the sky. Lu Ziju's luck seemed to be down in the dumps as he had once again descended but yet to be thrown upwards. Again and again. Every single collision, he had robustly rammed onto the pole as it gave out a dull banging sound. Following that was Lu Ziju's miserable shrieks. Just hearing his shrieks was able to make one imagine how heavily he had banged onto the poles. Such a heavy impact and how serious the injury was simply made one's heart trembled. But as this happened too suddenly, no one could respond in time. It was until Lu Ziju had rammed onto the third pole when the cries of surprise was heard from outside the array. Heavens, what happened? Had Lu Ziju been sent flying by Bairuoli? Isn't the Plum Blossom Dome young Master Lu's speciality? How did he lose to that small country's lass? Earlier, how did Bairuoli strike? Did you see it? Just a simple kick and she was able to send young Master Lu flying. No one was able to answer this question. Everyone had guessed for quite some time before they suddenly realized that Lu Ziju had not landed on the ground and was still continuously bouncing in between the different poles. What situation is this? Heavens, I can see young Master Lu throwing up blood in the middle of the sky. Yuan Ziyu was also in a daze from what he saw. He had already expected the possibility of Lu Ziju losing, but since he had already lost, but he could not descend onto the ground, so what was this? He went into a short daze before he heard the cries from the surrounding and suddenly regained his senses as he hurriedly called out, "Men, hurry up, go and switch off the array. Switch it off right now." The array master at the Yuan residence hurriedly turned off the array and Lu Ziju finally fell straight downwards from the last pole. Yuan Ziyu flew upwards and caught him in his arms personally. He took a look and realized that Lu Ziju had already passed out. On his face were greenish and purplish bruises and Yuan Ziyu touched a few places on his body only to discover that 10 over pieces of his ribs were broken, and he had sustained a serious internal injury. The thing that he was most worried about had happened. Lu family's young master had suffered a serious injury at his place, so Yuan family would have a hard time explaining about this. Yuan Ziyu hurriedly called out, "Quickly summon the best doctors to our residence. Then go to our storage and get the best medicinal pills here." At this present moment, everything was a flurry and everyone were shocked by Lu Ziju's looks. Practitioners were bound to get injured during tournaments, and injuries which were more serious than this was commonly seen. But the one who was injured now was Lu Ziju, the top exponent who had lost only to Yuan Ziyu. When he was in Celestial Light Academy, only he threw punches at others, who had dared to do it to him. Or it was to say, who had the capability to hurt him. But now, he was fixed to such a terrible state. At this moment, a crisp voice was heard from above everyone's heads. "I say, what's the situation now? Have I already won this battle? Isn't young Master Yuan this battle's judge? Why aren't you announcing the result? Are you expecting me to keep standing on the Plum Blossom Dome in a daze? You can also listen on." The crowd all raised their head in a daze as they suddenly recalled that they had forgotten about someone in the Plum Blossom Dome. Huang Yueli had already removed the black blindfold on her face. She stood on the tallest pole of the Plum Blossom Dome and looking downwards, her expression had a faint smile as she overlooked at everyone. She stood against the light and a blinding ray of sunlight shone from her back, as though her figure was coated with a layer of gold, silhouetted against her peerless beauty. It was as if an immortal being had descended. In a single moment, everyone was in a daze. Yuan Ziyu took several glances at her and it was until Huang Yueli raised her brows unhappily before he regained his senses and said, Right, it's my negligence. The winner of this battle is Bai Ruoli." The result was clear to all with no doubts at all, but the minute the result was announced, it still caused a huge stir. The reason was because many of them did not see clearly how did Huang Yueli manage to defeat Lu Ziju. This is counted as young Master Lu's loss. Many of them bore a vacant expression. Then, what can he do? Bai Ruoli is standing up there in good shape, whereas young Master Lu had already fallen down, and fallen to such a bad extent. It seems that he had suffered a serious injury, so even if he refuses to admit his defeat, he absolutely has no way to continue with this battle. But, isn't this unjustly for him? Young Master Lu obviously had the absolute advantage earlier. That Bai Ruoli was just lucky, so how did she just win so easily? Young Master Lu is just too unlucky. A few female students who secretly admired young Master Lu grieved and lamented for him as they felt it was an unjustified result. That's right. At the beginning, she was just running about blindly, and if it wasn't for the fact that the pole just happened to descend, she would probably have rammed into it head-on. And when young Master Lu struck, the pole suddenly descended again, which helped her big time. Otherwise she would definitely have fallen down. How was it possible that she would have the chance to attack young Master Lu then? Correct, she is just too lucky. Young Master Lu is just too... Sigh. Earlier, although he was struck, but he obviously had an opportunity to stabilize himself and battle once again. It was all because of those few damned poles. How could it be so coincidental to have sent him flying once and again? Bai Ruoli had really gained a huge advantage this time. The few of them had insisted that the real reason why Huang Yueli was about to win was purely because of luck. Based on the majority's ability and scope of understanding the world, they totally could not imagine that someone was able to grasp the operation of how a fifth-tier array worked, understanding how those plum blossom domes extended and contacted and using the ever-changing rhythm to easily defeat the opponent. Huang Yueli flew down from the plum blossom dome and turned delicately right in front of Yuan Ziyu. Yuan Ziyu's expression seemed slightly complicated, but the gaze which he used to look at her couldn't mask the admiration which he had for her. He really had not expected that Huang Yueli could so easily defeat Lu Ziju. This only meant that she not only had an outstanding innate talent, but it also meant that she had brains and including that sweet and gentle looks. Yuan Ziyu felt that he was deeply enchanted by her. Only she, the cream of the crop, was suitable for him. As compared to the other large family's daughters, they were all plain Janes. Miss Bai, congratulations on obtaining victory. Since you have defeated Lu Ziju, your ranking in martial arts stage has considerably taken a step forward. Just barely 2 weeks from entering the academy and you've already become the martial arts stage rank number 3. Your achievements are more than enough to leave a record in Celestial Light Academy's history. You can also listen on. Yuan Ziyu spoke earnestly, but Huang Yueli didn't thought much of it. I'm not interested at all in some martial arts stage ranking. I'm only concerned about one matter: can I take away the stakes which I had won now? The minute she asked, those present started to quieten down. Yuan Ziyu's face was filled with hesitation. This, Huang Yueli's brows creased as she replied in annoyance. What does young Master Yuan mean? We had agreed on this previously, don't tell me that you're regretting it now. Yuan Ziyu had yet to say a word when the surrounding crowd started to shout. What right do you have to take away young Master Lu's divine martial record? You're able to win today's battle purely because of luck, isn't it? If it wasn't for your dog-s asterisk at luck, you'd already had fallen, breaking all your bones and forget about winning this battle. That's right. Isn't it all because of your luck? To win based on luck, you should secretly be happy. How could you still be so thick-skinned and request to take away young Master Lu's cultivation method? That's right, young Master Lu is just unlucky to have fallen for no reason. So if his cultivation method was also taken away from him, then it's be so unjustified for him. Huang Yueli turned around and her icy gaze swept across. Those few who had been crying out the most severe met with her icy cold gaze and totally did not dare to meet her eyes as they shut up their mouths in guilt. Huang Yueli sneered as she looked towards Yuan Ziyu once again. Why? Young Master Yuan appears so hesitantly. Could it be that you also feel that I had won the battle purely because of luck and has no right to claim the stakes which I had won? Yuan Ziyu shook his head immediately as he responded, I don't think in that way. There is no such thing as coincidental in this world. Moreover, a win is a win, a loss is a loss. What's it got to do with coincidental or non-coincidental? Looks like young Master Yuan is considered understanding. Since that's the case, quickly hand me the item which Lu Ziju had stakes because I'm preparing to head back to Celestial Light Academy to cultivate. Huang Yueli replied. Ugh, this. Miss Bai, can we have a private discussion? Yuan Ziyu entered another round of hesitation as he still didn't brought out the divine martial record. Huang Yueli's face sunk. Young Master Yuan, what is the meaning of this? Since you've already acknowledged my victory, then one must accept the loss when one loses. Since he had bet the stakes but not willing to honor it, is that how the large families in Sky Cloud City handle things? Why is there a need to have a private discussion? Whatever you want to say, just say it out right now clearly. Yuan Ziyu had an expression which showed that he was in a difficult position. He looked at Huang Yueli and looked towards Lu Ziju who was lying on the soft mattress as he sighed in resignation. Miss Bai, I know you have outstanding innate talent, so you are proud and arrogant. But you are however still too young, have not understood certain matters. Under this earth, it's not only a matter of winning and losing or right and wrong. There are still a lot of other things to consider. Although this round, you've already won and have more than enough reason to take away the divine martial record, but have you ever thought of this? Lu Ziju had a battle with you and sustained such heavy injury. If this matter were to leak out, then Lu family would be completely enraged. To appease the Lu family's rage is not an easy matter, and if you still insist on taking away their secret cultivation method, have you ever considered what the Lu family will do? They will absolutely not let you off easily. Huang Yueli heard his earnest and well-meaning advice as her lips curled upwards into a curve which mimicked a ridicule. Young Master Yuan, I understand your meaning perfectly. It's good that you understand. Yuan Ziyu heaved a long sigh of relief. But, so what? Huang Yueli continued her words on with indifference. You can also listen on. What? Yuan Ziyu started to doubt his own ears. Huang Yueli continued answering him in a calm and collected manner. Young Master Yuan, you heard me correctly. I am very grateful for your well-intended reminders, but since I've won the battle, then taking the stake away is what I'm entitled to. I'm not concerned about what the Lu family will do, I'm only concerned about getting the things which I should get. How can you not distinguish between the severity of this matter? Yuan Ziyu started to become displeased. The power of Sky Cloud City's large families is not something that you can imagine. One of the old ancestors of the Lu family had even been Celestial Light sect master. Ordinary people are not able to offend this kind of large family. If you really are going to take away the divine martial record, then even I will have no way to protect you. Huang Yueli smiled as she replied, "Thank you, but I did not seem to mention ever that I require Yuan family's protection, right? Young Master Yuan, please rest assured that once I step out of Yuan Residence's main door, my matter would be of no concern to you. So now, can you pass me the divine martial record?" Yuan Ziyu frowned as he stared intently at the young lady who had a charming smile on her face as his heart stirred into a bout of frustration. He really wanted to woo Huang Yueli, so all the more he couldn't allow her to offend Lu family. Lu family had always been the first to shield their people and was well known to be unreasonable. But this lass was just one-track mind, totally unable to twist and turn and completely ignoring his advice. Huang Yueli stretched out her delicate arm as she raised it upwards, waiting for Yuan Ziyu to hand her the cultivation method. Yuan Ziyu clenched his teeth as he tried to persuade further. "How about this, Miss Bai, you've indeed won. So let you return empty-handed is indeed not right. I shall personally compensate you 100,000 upper-grade spirit stones as compensation." When Huang Yueli heard what he said, she was stunned. "You want to give me money?" Yuan Ziyu replied, "Divine martial record is a cultivation method which trains the body. You're not intending to go into this line of training, so it's impossible for you to cultivate anyway. So after you get this, you'd probably sell it off at the auction house for money. An earth-grade cultivation method's original value is a few 100,000 upper-grade spirit stones. Moreover, this is something which Lu family had lost, so even if you brought it to the auction house, most probably no one would dare to accept it. Since that's the case, why not give me some face and sell it to me at a discounted pricing? How about it?" Huang Yueli's brows rose in surprise. "Young Master Yuan, why are you doing this? Yuan family is the #1 large family in Sky Cloud City, so surely you shouldn't be worried of the Lu family to such an extent, right?" Yuan Ziyu stared at her eyes, and seeing that she totally don't treat it as a matter, his heart started to turn anxious and flustered. He couldn't help but blurt out, "Miss Bai, why would I be scared of the Lu family? I'm doing this all for you. Why can't you understand? If you are really short of spirit stones or any suitable cultivation methods, I can help you. But you'd better not offend the Lu family. Listen to me, I don't harm you, so let this matter rest now." This conversation was just too direct, and many of them had understood what he meant. Surely it cannot be true. Young Master Yuan really took a liking to Bai Ruoli. How can it be fake? But this Miss Bai has such ability and looks, so even if young Master Yuan takes a liking to her, it is also considered normal, right? I'm so envious of her. Why does young Master Yuan treat her so well? He already thought on her behalf and even initiated to give her spirit stones just so that she does not offend the Lu family. Huang Yueli heard his passionate intention but only smiled with a ridicule, totally not taking it to heart. This successor of Sky Cloud City's #1 large family had really treated himself as Don Juan. You can also listen on. It was just the first time they met, and he had this look which seemed like totally devoted to her, as though she was an innocent young lady who had never seen the world. She was very clear what went on in a man's mind. It was purely because he had seen her outstanding ability and exceeding innate talent which he felt was of value to him. The so-called admiration, rather than calling it admiration towards her, it might as well be labeled as the admiration towards her value. Moreover, the proposal which he raised was even laughable. A high-grade cultivation method manual which was worthy of becoming a family heirloom was only worth 100,000 of upper-grade spirit stones. Who was he trying to bluff? Yuan Ziyu's idea, to be blunt, was still forcing her to back down. The only difference was retreating from 100 steps had now become retreating a total of 99 steps only. If he really wanted to help her, he should directly give her the cultivation method. No matter how strong Lu family's stance was, as compared to Yuan family, there still should have been some huge difference. So in the end, Yuan Ziyu's consideration was still on his own benefits. He hoped that he would not offend any side. On one hand, he wanted to win a favorable impression from Huang Yueli, but he didn't want to offend the Lu family from marrying this legendary figure, which was why he couldn't make up his mind. As compared to Li Moying, who stood by her unwaveringly, Yuan Ziyu was simply too weak for words. If that man was here right now, he would probably have led her to Lu family to wreak havoc long ago. In Huang Yueli's heart, she was very clear of this, so even though Yuan Ziyu put on enamored expression, it could not sway her emotions one bit. But Li Shuai, who had always been following behind Yuan Ziyu, had seen through the selfish nature behind that enamored look which he had been putting on. Seeing that she had finally gained some affection from Yuan Ziyu, but he actually did everything in favor of Huang Yueli, as though he had totally forgotten about her existence as his chaperone. Li Shuai was so angry that she was about to fly into a rage, but as her capability was not adequate, she did not dare to challenge Huang Yueli. At this moment, a thought flashed past her mind as she immediately revealed a sneer. Li Shuai moved swiftly and appeared in front of Yuan Ziyu, speaking out, "Young Master Yuan, stop trying to persuade her. Miss Bai Shi, she definitely would not accept your good intentions." However, Yuan Ziyu's heart was totally filled with Huang Yueli and had completely lost interest in Li Shuai. Seeing that she came out so untactfully, he spoke out in an extremely impatient manner, "This is between me and her, it's of no concern to you. Get lost." Li Shuai was so infuriated that she clenched hard on her teeth. When she arrived at the banquet earlier, Yuan Ziyu treated her with the utmost respect and even appeared that he wanted to get more intimate with her. But it hadn't been that long before he turned stern and cold, and this was all because of Huang Yueli. She cried out loudly, "Young Master Yuan, you have to consider this carefully. She already has a fiancé, so she cannot be with you." "What?" Yuan Ziyu's expression changed instantaneously. "What? Already has a fiancé? How is that possible? Is this Li Shuai talking blindly? Even if she wanted to defame someone, she also shouldn't defame in such a manner. Has she been muddled by jealousy?" No one believed Li Shuai's words because it sounded absolutely ridiculous. As a practitioner's lifespan was very long, their cultivation period during their youths were critical. So generally speaking, they often married in a later stage of their lives, and the more outstanding their innate talent was, the later they would get married. Only large families' descendants would get engaged earlier because they often allied through marriage. Huang Yueli's innate talent was so high and she was still so young. Moreover, she was from a small country. Which man from South Yu Kingdom, that run-down country, was worthy of her? You can also listen on. She was already engaged at such a tender age. What kind of joke was that? Yuan Ziyu calmed down after waves of shock rippled as he thought it could not be true. "Li Shuai, what nonsense are you sprouting? If you are to run off your mouth in such a careless manner again and offend my valued guest, don't blame me for sending you out of here." He spoke sternly. Li Shuai continued in spite of his words, "Young Master Yuan, I'm not sprouting nonsense. Bai Ruoli and I both come from South Yu Kingdom, so would I not know her background? Moreover, her fiancé is not just anyone, he's my second brother. This matter is absolutely true and is known throughout my entire South Yu Kingdom. Saying that, she turned towards Huang Yueli, putting on an expression which looked like her heart was aching. Second sister-in-law, my second brother usually treated you well. How could you pretend that you're single the minute you came to Sky Cloud City, thinking to fly up the branches? This simply, shut up dash. Huang Yueli spat out the two words as she unleashed the profound energy within her. Li Shuer was just standing by her side and immediately felt her blood raging from her oppression and couldn't speak a single word. Huang Yueli gave a cold harumph, since when had I not admitted the marriage arrangement? And which eye did you see that I'm hoping to fly up the branches? Li Shuer, you must be held responsible for slandering others. You obviously was trying to seduce young Master Yuan. Li Shuer took a few steps backwards as she forcefully hissed this sentence out from the gaps of her teeth. A resounding slap landed on her face as Huang Yueli gave her a tight slap. Li Shuer's face instantaneously became swollen as she held on to her face, staring unbelievably at Huang Yueli. She really had not thought that the minute they had the slightest disagreement, Huang Yueli immediately struck out and hit her. She could not even be bothered to debate any further. What you claimed this earlier, I'm your second sister-in-law. You spoke at will without thinking and sprouted nonsense, you have no upbringing at all. Since your parents and brothers are not here, then I shall educate you on behalf of your second brother. Saying that, she continued slapping Li Shuer's face continuously for 10 times and Li Shuer was totally unable to avoid and very soon, her face was swollen like a pig head. Huang Yueli intentionally didn't use much strength. Otherwise just one slap of Li Shuer's would have sent her flying at least 100 meters and above. When the audience saw a 14, 15 young beauty using a senior position to lecture her sister, who apparently was older than her by several number of years, they were all blown away by this. Li Shuer felt that her face was so hot as though it was on fire. Huang Yueli was obviously humiliating her on purpose and she would rather faint rather than stand there and let her slap continuously. Now that so many people were watching her being slapped and berated as though she was lecturing a 3-year-old brat, this had reduced her to a complete laughingstock. In the end, the fury got to her and it caused her to faint as per her wishes. Yuan Ziyu then regained his senses as he stared blankly at Huang Yueli asking in an unbelievable manner, You really have a fiancé? Huang Yueli nodded, that's right, I indeed have a marriage agreement. Usually she wasn't willing to admit the marriage agreement with Li Moying but at this moment, using him as a shield wasn't a bad idea after all. How could this be possible? Yuan Ziyu asked in shock, with your innate talent, why would you get engaged in South Yu Kingdom? Your fiancé. What kind of person is he? Huang Yueli smiled, thinking if she really told the truth, it would scare him to death. But she didn't want to make matters bigger than it was already so she avoided the main points and said simply, hasn't Li Shuer already said it? It's her second brother. Li Shuer is the 7th princess of our South Yu Kingdom and my fiancé is the second prince. You can also listen on. Second prince, Yuan Ziyu revealed an ignorant expression. Although the position of a second prince from a bordering small country sounded big, but most of them had seen the world and naturally knew that this kind of status in soaring heaven's continent was not worth anything at all. A beautiful lady with exceeding innate talent actually got engaged with this kind of character. This totally was illogical. Could it be that Huang Yueli was too young and didn't understood what was going on and was cheated by that honey-mouthed superficial man? Yes, that must be it. This lass was so young and was fixed on cultivation so she should not have met many real men. Yuan Ziyu thought that he had guessed the truth and hurriedly advised, Miss Bai, as a practitioner, it's too early to get engaged. Moreover, with your innate talent, you should find a man who is worthy of you. How would you get engaged so easily? But no matter, based on your current ability, there's no one who can match up against you, so even if you go back and decline this engagement, no one would be able to stop you." "Who said I want to decline this engagement?" "Young Master Yuan, isn't your scope of concern too wide? I like my fiancé very much and I've decided to only marry him." Huang Yueli bore a face of contempt. "But, Miss Bai," Yuan Ziyu wanted to persuade further upon hearing that she obstinately persisted in going about things the wrong way. Huang Yueli had already lost her patience as she spoke curtly, "Young Master Yuan, please cut down on the nonsense. Just one word, this divine martial record, are you giving it to me or not?" Yuan Ziyu was stunned, not expected her to totally disregard his suggestion, and was only thinking of the stakes earlier. "Miss Bai, it's not that I'm intentionally not giving it to you, but," Huang Yueli cut him off abruptly, "I understand now, young Master Yuan, stop these nonsense. I challenge you. If you win, I will write off the divine martial record matter. But if you lose, Yuan family will also need to use a set of cultivation method which was of equal value to the divine martial record." The surrounding practitioners broke into a bustle when they heard their exchange. Heavens, Bai Ruoli has gone mad, she actually issued a challenge to young Master Yuan. She had won against young Master Lu purely out of luck and thought she really had the ability to challenge young Master Yuan. She simply hasn't got any self-awareness. I've never seen someone who is unable to tell good from bad. Young Master Yuan is already giving her consideration in all ways and even willing to give her 100,000 upper-grade spirit stones. How much money is that? I've never seen that much spirit stones in my entire life. She actually don't know how to quit while one is ahead. Right, give her an inch and she wants a mile. Why would young Master Yuan like her? She already has a fiancé and she's still getting involved with young Master Yuan. Various voices laden with envy and contempt could be heard. Huang Yueli's gaze was fixated on Yuan Ziyu as she waited for his reply. Yuan Ziyu bore a perplexed expression. Although he didn't believe that he would lose, but he also didn't want to face Huang Yueli with combat. Even though he knew that she already had a fiancé, but he had no intention to give up. Because from what Yuan Ziyu saw, a second prince from a neighboring small country was simply a joke, so how was he to snatch his woman from him? Simply a toad lusting after swan's flesh. This kind of rival, he couldn't be bothered with him and would directly disregard him. So Yuan Ziyu's thinking had not changed at all and he was still insistent on winning Huang Yueli over. If he were to injure his little beauty, then they would become foes in future, so how was he going to be able to woo her successfully? You can also listen on. Miss Bai, don't be so rash. I'm not going to accept your challenge, so for this matter, let's sit down and have a good discussion. As Yuan Ziyu said that, he shot forward and tried to pull Huang Yueli's hand. Huang Yueli frowned, and just as she was attempting to avoid him, whoever knew that she had just took half a step backwards and immediately she bumped into a solid object. She had not expected anything behind her to be obstructing her, so she received a huge shock. But immediately following that, a well-built arm wrapped around her slender waist and brought her into a man's solid embrace. At the same time, Yuan Ziyu's expression changed as he gave a blood-curdling screech and flew outwards. As the unexpected changes was too sudden, no one was able to react in time and the atmosphere became completely silent. Huang Yueli felt a familiar overbearing imposing manner charging towards her as she turned around in shock. That incomparably handsome face of Li Moying's appeared right in front of her face. You! Why are you here? Her mouth was slightly agape as she bore a face of shock. Li Moying's perfectly sculpted face was filled with icy cold frost and his gaze was deep and stern. His emotionless thin lips curled upwards and his lower jaw started to tighten. Anyone could tell that his mood was bad, extremely bad. It was even more appropriate to say that it was vile to the extreme. The arm that Li Moying had around her waist tightened even more as he lowered his head and using a possessive attitude, he kissed her lightly on the corners of her lips. This is a banquet to celebrate the start of the school term, so since I'm also a student of Celestial Light Academy, why can't I come? But what status did Li Moying had? He would attend such a boring banquet? Li Moying touched her fair white complexion as his gaze sunk. If I didn't come, how would I know that there's a fly who's been eyeing my woman? Huang Yueli's face started to turn into a deep scarlet red as she was stared at deeply by an ambiguous and passionate gaze. What your woman, she protested softly, which made Li Moying's icy cold expression revealed slight signs of melting. Just at this moment, Yuan Xiu, who had been sent flying and entering a short round of concussion, suddenly started to regain his consciousness. With the support of his guards who helped to support him up, he clenched his teeth and shouted in anger, "Who are you? What guts you have? How dare you create a scene in our Yuan residence?" Before he could complete his sentence, he suddenly caught a glimpse of Li Moying, who was stuck close behind Huang Yueli as his word of threat suddenly got stuck right in his throat. Yuan Xiu was tongue-tied as he saw the sudden appearance of this handsome man, as his heart suddenly trembled and his legs gave way, almost falling onto the ground once again. How was it possible that it was him? The others didn't know Li Moying's real identity, but as the eldest young master of Sky Cloud City's #1 large family, Yuan Xiu had already gotten word from Principal Jiang on Li Moying's identity. He had even had the honor to battle with him on his first day of appearing at Celestial Light Academy, and had always been proud of this. So he was the only one there who knew that Li Moying was Celestial Light Sect's young sect master. Yo! Young, his voice started to quiver. Li Moying's cold intent swept across to him. Yuan Xiu suddenly recalled that Principal Jiang had reminded him that young sect master's arrival at Celestial Light Academy was a top secret, and he didn't wish to reveal his identity, so he must keep his mouth shut on this. He hastily changed his words, "Say, Senior Brother Li, why have you suddenly come? You can also listen on." When those present heard what he said, they suddenly recalled the identity of this man who had suddenly appeared. Senior Brother Li. Surely it can't be. Could it be that he's the one who just came and had already defeated young Master Yuan to become the martial arts stage #1 ranking Senior Brother Li? That's right, it's him. I'd seen him from afar once in the crowd. To think that he was already so handsome when I saw him from afar. I'd never expected that he was so handsome up close. His looks will probably incur the wrath of God and anger of men. Heavens, I'm going to faint. But why would Senior Brother Li? Why did he suddenly appear here and even hugged by Ruoli that rightly? Could it be that she and Senior Brother Li has some relations? This is impossible. How can it be possible? For young Master Yuan to like her, we can forget about it. Senior Brother Li is even more handsome and more powerful, so how could he possibly like her? That's just impossible. The female students there all burned their jealous gazes tightly onto the two who were in deep embrace. However, Li Moying's opening sentence shattered all their dreams. Yuan Xiu, your guts is not small at all. How dare you have designs on my fiancé? Fiancé. Yuan Xiu was in a daze as he momentarily didn't catch the gist of what he meant by that word. He followed Li Moying's line of sight and looked towards Huang Yueli, and he responded blankly, Senior Brother Li, the fiancé you mentioned, surely it cannot be. Cannot be Miss by right. Li Moying held tightly onto Huang Yueli's slender waist as his chilly voice was about to form into icicles. What do you think? But, earlier hadn't Li Shuai said Miss Bai already has a fiancé and he is her second brother. As Yuan Xiu was talking, he suddenly seemed to think of something as the sweat that formed on his forehead started to drip downwards. Not long ago, his entire body was drenched in sweat. Heavens, why didn't he thought of this? Li Shuer, Li Moying, aren't their surnames all Li? Could it be that young sect master was Li Shuer's second brother and was rumored as Huang Yueli's fiancé? That's right, in the past he had also heard rumors that young sect master was not born in the sect but was brought back from a small country in the south. With both evidences linking up, Huang Yueli's fiancé's identity was portrayed vividly. The more Yuan Ziyu thought, the more afraid he became. His expression turned so pale as though he was no different from a dead person. Recalling back that he even had the thoughts earlier that this lass's fiancé was definitely some toad lusting after a swan's flesh and had no qualifications to snatch a woman from him, he couldn't wait to use a slap to beat himself to death. Heavens, why was he so dumb and had not thought of this much earlier? Huang Yueli's innate talent was so outstanding, her looks and temperament were so unique, moreover her mannerism had the demeanor of an influential family, so it was not possible for her to be a silly goose who would be cheated by any man. How could the man who had entered her eyes be some ordinary person? Thinking back, for her to get engaged at such a tender age, naturally it would be because she had found another peerless talent who was worthy of her to be her fiancé. Unfortunately, he had understood all of these a bit too late. Looking at Li Moying's emotionless and icy cold gaze, Yuan Ziyu really wishes that time would turn back and he had never said such silly words. To have designs on the young sect master's fiancé and to be caught red-handed. Who didn't know the status of Li Moying in Celestial Light sect? Although he was the young sect master, but in actual fact, even sect master Murong had treated this disciple with utmost respect and dared not use any harsh words. This time, since he had offended Li Moying, perhaps he might not even be able to carry on in future. You can also listen on. The more Yuan Ziyu thought, the more afraid he was as he hurriedly tried to explain for himself. Young Senior Brotherly, this is a misunderstanding, really a misunderstanding. I had not known earlier that Miss Bai was your fiancée. If I had known earlier, even if you killed me, I wouldn't do anything to offend her. Really? Senior Brotherly, you have to believe me, Yuan Ziyu couldn't stop explaining, almost to the point of kneeling down and kowtowing. At this moment, he completely disregarded his pride and reputation as Yuan family's eldest young master. He only knew one thing. If Li Moying started to hate him because of this, it would not only be him who would get into deep trouble, even the entire Yuan family might be pulled down into the mud. Li Moying stared at him icily as he replied, misunderstanding. Earlier I had heard it with my own ears that eldest young Master Yuan was showing so much concern to my fiancée, even persuading her not to get settled down so early and to quickly return back to our country to withdraw from our marriage agreement. Why? Young Master Yuan seems to think that my Lear and I are not compatible. Earlier when he heard what Yuan Ziyu said, he was so infuriated that he could wait to tear this fellow, who had been sowing discord, apart. If it wasn't for the fact that he had barely recalled that Yuan Ziyu was Celestial Light Sect's elder Yuan's direct grandson, Yuan Ziyu would probably had long become a corpse. Yuan Ziyu was scared stiff, deeply remorseful on what he said earlier. His knees gave way as he finally gave in to the inner terror emotions that filled his heart as he knelt down and explained while trembling. No. I'm in the wrong. Senior Brotherly, I'm wrong. I really didn't know Miss Bai and you were a couple. I thought which senseless guy had wanted to take advantage of Miss Bai. You and Miss Bai are a natural-born couple. No one can be as compatible as you two. Really? On seeing his love rival prowling onto the ground, totally throwing away the thought to compete against each other's abilities, Li Moying's mood started to become slightly better. He spoke in an icy tone. It's great that young Master Yuan is so understanding. Yuan Ziyu realized that Li Moying was prepared to let him off the hook and he hurriedly added, yes, Senior Brotherly, please be rest assured. I will not dare to sprout rubbish in the future. Just in the middle of his words, a voice was heard reporting from the outside of the door. Eldest young master, my lord has arrived. A middle-aged man dressed in purple-red robe walked quickly along the long corridor. Yuan Ziyu called out in haste, "Father." The person who had walked in was the current family head Yuan Tianhua. Yuan Tianhua bore an expression which seemed like he regretted that Yuan Ziyu didn't live up to his expectations as he stared one look at him, and subsequently, he affectionately bowed respectfully towards Li Moying. Yuan Ziyu hurriedly cut him off. "Father, I forgot to introduce. This person here is our academy's senior brother Li Moying." Yuan Tianhua went into a short pause but quickly responded as he realized that Li Moying had kept his identity hidden. He intelligently changed his tone. "Young Master Li, I've heard of your good name. I'm Yuan Tianhua. We welcome you for gracing us here at our Yuan residence, and your presence has brought light to our humble dwelling. My son is still young and the things he does is just unreasonable. If he had offended you in any way, please don't take offense. I will definitely teach him a good lesson." The appearance of Yuan Tianhua immediately made the ordinary students excited and surprised. Sky Cloud City's #1 family's leader was an 8th-stage realm top exponent and was a person of the highest authority. He seldom showed himself, and no one had expected that he actually appeared at their insignificant banquet today. Everyone was discussing quietly and guessing that he had heard Yuan Ziyu being bullied and had specially came to stick up for his son. You can also listen on. In the end, reality was totally out of everyone's expectations. Yuan Tianhua had witnessed his son's serious injury and was still kneeling on the ground, but yet he didn't show any plans of helping him take revenge. Instead, he had a terrified expression on his face as he even talked to Li Moying in a tolerant tone, apologizing humbly and expressing his goodwill. This scene had simply left everyone shocked. Everyone present were not able to regain their senses at that moment. A person like Yuan Tianhua, who controlled one of the largest powers in Sky Cloud City, had actually apologized humbly to a 20-over young man. Moreover, in such a jittery manner, taking caution as though he was afraid that he would continue pursuing this matter. How was this possibly be true? However, no matter how hard they kept rubbing their eyes, the scenario which they saw had not changed at all. Li Moying indifferently swept a glance at Yuan Tianhua and declined to comment. Yuan Ziyu stood up and walked over, introducing personally, "Father, this Miss Bai standing next to senior brother Li is his fiancée and is one of the students in our academy." Yuan Tianhua went into an obvious blank. He had met Murong Fei previously, and in his impression, the sect master's eldest daughter was young sect master's fiancée. Not knowing where this young lass had come from, how could she possibly? Yuan Ziyu saw his hesitation as he hurriedly jabbed him. Yuan Tianhua then understood as he hastily said, "Miss Bai is really a beauty, and standing next to young Master Li, you two are really a perfect match, an ideal couple." These words pleased Li Moying very much as his icy cold expression started to crumble. "Thank you for the compliment." Yuan Tianhua quickly added, "Young Master Li, please take a seat inside. I've already ordered the chefs to prepare for the banquet, so please have a drink before you leave." Li Moying had originally not wanted to deal with these idle people, but when he turned around to take a look at Huang Yueli, he realized that this lass was exceptionally obedient today and even leaned against him gently. The smile she had on her face was just nice, displaying the perfect role of his fiancée. His heart thumped. Earlier, when Yuan Ziyu was about to renege on the stakes earlier, he had already arrived and was prepared to show himself to demand justice on her behalf. But just at that moment, Li Shuer suddenly popped out and revealed the fact that Huang Yueli already had a fiancée. Li Moying's footsteps came to a halt as he wanted to know badly how his leer would answer this question. The result was that he had indeed heard the answer which he wanted to hear the most. This little lass had, without the slightest hesitation, admitted that she already had a marriage agreement and even claimed loudly that she liked her fiancé and would not marry anyone else. Such moving words were something which he usually didn't get to hear. Even so, Li Moying knew that Huang Yueli had said such things today was because she had to deal with Li Shuai and Yuan Ziyu, and were not her heartfelt words. But even so, these words had pleased him greatly, making his mood a lot better. Thinking of this, his arms withdrew, drawing Huang Yueli into his embrace. At the same time, he said towards Yuan Tianhua, "Since Lord Yuan is so formal, then I shall have a seat inside." Yuan Tianhua was both delighted and surprised as he hurriedly ordered, "Young Master Li, please." He had already made preparations to be rejected, but he had not expected that young sect master would stay and attend the banquet. To be able to invite Celestial Light Sect's young sect master to the Yuan residence was an immensely huge honor. In the entire Sky Cloud City, only his Yuan family could get such an honor. Li Moying nodded as he brought Huang Yueli into the banquet hall. Huang Yueli secretly tugged onto Li Moying's sleeve, protesting softly, "Let's go back. I don't want to stay here to attend some banquet. You can also listen on." At this place, everyone looked at her as though they had solemnly determined that she was Li Moying's. This made her extremely embarrassed and an indescribable joy which welled up inside. Why would she feel that being stared upon by those envious gazes would make her feel overjoyed? She obviously was not a vain person. Li Moying saw her adorable look as she minced on her lips and smiled secretly. This was exactly the kind of effect which he wanted, to let everyone see that this young lady in his embrace was his. No one should even dare to covet her. He had a straight expression on, "Lear, I know you don't like places with too many people gathering together, but Lord Yuan and I are former acquaintances. Since I'd gate crashed into his residence and if I don't even have a cup of tea, it is simply disrespectful. We cannot behave in this manner." Huang Yueli's mouth twitched. This man actually dared to lecture her on mannerisms. The person who was obviously usually more overbearing was him. But she didn't have the time to say anything before she was already brought into the banquet hall. Li Moying simply sat on the seat of the host while Yuan Tianhua could only sit on the right-hand seat. Yuan Ziyu didn't even dare to sit and just stood behind his father. Both father and son of the Yuan family were eagerly attentive, carefully trying means and ways to get into Li Moying's good books. Li Moying, on the other hand, bearing an indifferent look, perfunctorily listening to them. As Li Moying tugged onto her rigidly, Huang Yueli could only sit right next to him as they stuck closely together. If it were normal times, she would have resisted all the way to the end long ago. But it was different now. Earlier she had declared loudly that she had a fiancé and their relationship was great. These were words that she had put into her own mouth, so if she were to push this man away, wouldn't it be akin to slapping her own face? At this moment, she began to deeply feel remorseful. Sigh, if she knew that this man was going to appear out of the blue, she would never have dared to speak rashly and used him as a shield. Huang Yueli had never thought that Li Moying had done this on purpose. He knew that Huang Yueli would only be intimate with him here and intentionally remained behind so that he could enjoy himself a bit more, to have the feeling of being a couple. Even though she didn't know about Li Moying's plot, but Huang Yueli was already becoming extremely embarrassed. Because almost everyone was looking at them in the banquet hall. Although most of them didn't dare to stare at them brazenly, but they would occasionally shoot their glances over. Mumblings could be heard on and off. She only needed to use her toes to think before she already knew what these people were talking about. Do you know what background does this senior brotherly come from? Why does Lord Yuan treat him with such respect? No, Lord Yuan seems to be trying to get into his good books. Isn't that so? Earlier young Master Yuan had been beaten up so badly by senior brother Li, but he didn't even dare to retaliate back. Moreover, Lord Yuan had seen his own son being beaten up and didn't even dare to make any sound. Instead he tried to butter him up. Senior Brother Li's background must be extremely terrifying. Perhaps he's from Celestial Light sect. Surely that can't be. Don't tell me you mean. Senior Brother Li is a direct disciple of our main sect. If he really had such an identity, why didn't he remain in the sect to cultivate properly and ran to Celestial Light Academy instead? Who knows? But I'm making a wild guess. Look at his hand that had been grabbing onto by Ruoli so tightly. It's as though he's afraid that she would run away. Perhaps Senior Brother Li is here to accompany his own fiancée. You can also listen on. Sigh, I really envy Ruoli, she's really got such a good life. She actually has such a handsome and strong man like Senior Brother Li as her fiancé. Why would a top-quality man like Senior Brother Li get engaged at such a young age? Why don't you even think about what kind of innate talent does Ruoli have? Based on her looks and personality, earlier young Master Yuan couldn't wait to marry her back on the spot. For Senior Brother Li to fall for her, isn't that very normal? What? How can young Master Yuan even be compared to Senior Brother Li? Didn't you see what happened earlier? Based on power, young Master Yuan couldn't even handle one move from Senior Brother Li. As for status, even young Master Yuan's father have to bow down to Senior Brother Li. As for looks, there's no need to even compare. I have never seen a second man who is as handsome as Senior Brother Li. That's right. It is just right for a peerless top exponent like Senior Brother Li to marry 17 or 18 concubines or even take in hundreds of bondmaids, so why did he choose to get engaged so early in life? No matter if it was a man or woman, all of them had an envious expression on their faces. Yuan Ziyu heard the discussions from below the stage and his expression turned green and white, not to mention how uncomfortable he felt inside. Usually the person who had been treated like a male god was him. But now, he had entirely become a decoration and a stepping stone. This was the first time he had tasted such a feeling, and that felt really bad. Unfortunately, the person whom they were all praising was Li Moying. His powerful existence was something that he could not hope to achieve in his entire lifetime. He didn't even dare to feel jealous. Huang Yueli happened to be eating when she heard what the others were discussing and she almost choked. What did these people mean? They actually felt that she was not worthy of Li Moying. And even said he could marry 17 or 18 concubines. What kind of joke was that? In future, if he dared to take another glance at any other woman, she would chop off his below into 7 or 8 parts. Humph. Stop poking already, this piece of braised meat is being poked until it's becoming minced, how could it possibly taste good? The man's deep enchanting vocals bearing laughter was heard beside her ear as a warm palm held the back of her right hand, stopping all her movements. Huang Yueli lowered her head as she realized that her unintentional action earlier had actually been poked with hundreds of holes on the piece of meat with chopsticks on her plate. What are you thinking about? Don't you this foodie usually love to eat? Why are you suddenly torturing the food today? Li Moying affectionately pinched her face. Huang Yueli was stunned as she instantly turned her face away in embarrassment. Heavens, what was she thinking about? She and Li Moying were in a temporary marriage arrangement only, so it was not possible to get married in the future. When she returned to Mu Qingying, Li Moying could get married to any woman he liked, so what concern was it with her? And what rights did she have to control him? She was really thinking too much. Huang Yueli slapped her chopsticks onto the table in annoyance. I'm full. So fast. I think you haven't eaten anything much. Don't you usually eat a lot? Huang Yueli became unhappy. What do you mean? Since when did I eat a lot? I'm not a pig. Her lips were puckered up, bearing an angry look, which made her look pampered and adorable. Li Moying wanted badly to kiss her, but he held himself back. When did I say you were a pig? You're obviously a cat. A greedy cat. Just as he saw Huang Yueli's stare and was about to explode, he hurriedly took up a piece of garlic pork ribs and stuffed it into her little cherry lips. These ribs are very tasty, have you tried it yet? Try a little, Amen. But this didn't stop their entire hearts from being filled with envy, jealousy and hatred. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli was caught unaware by that piece of ribs, and as she had no way to flare up, she chewed hard on that ribs, thinking of swallowing it down and continuing to give that man beside her a good scolding. Who knew that after she chewed a few mouthfuls, her eyes suddenly lit up. It's really tasty. Li Moying's lips rose upwards as he felt pretty delighted. He knew it, his little fox was a little foodie and was just too easy to please. Since it's tasty, then have some more. Li Moying took another piece of ribs for her. This round, Huang Yueli was much more obedient as she continued to chew on a few more pieces of ribs. Li Moying looked at her cheeks, chomping like a little squirrel as his smile became deeper. I cannot let my wife go hungry. Cough cough. When he said that, Huang Yueli immediately choked and held on to her chest, and she coughed for quite a while. Li Moying poured her a glass of water and he displayed a helpless expression. Eat slowly, I'm not snatching your food from you. You actually choked. Huang Yueli used her watery big eyes and stared at him furiously. Stop spouting nonsense, we're not, she wanted to say, not that kind of relationship, but upon seeing Yuan family's father and son sitting just next to them, she could only adjust her words to, we're not married yet, so who's your wife? Sooner or later you'd be. Li Moying gave a wanton smile as the well-defined finger swept past her lips to clean off some oil which had stained the corners of her lips. Huang Yueli patted her face, feeling that the banquet hall seemed to be a bit too warm. Yuan family's father and son were watching on from not too far away as they had already turned dumb as a wooden chicken. They couldn't believe that they actually saw such a strange scene. Young sect master he was actually so gentle and even knew how to make a girl happy, speaking sweet nothings and even fed that young lass personally. This really was the young sect master that they knew. Even though they hadn't met Li Moying too many times, but every time they met him, Li Moying had a cold-as-frost look on him, and that overbearing aloof presence made everyone filled with fear from the bottom of their hearts, not even daring to show any signs of impudicity. Although he was extremely handsome, but many did not even have the courage to take a look at him. But now, what did they just saw? A young lass like Huang Yueli dared to slam the table in front of Li Moying and even scolded him, giving him an ugly expression. Earlier, when she slammed the chopsticks onto the table, Yuan father and son quivered, thinking that she was going to get into deep trouble. What kind of status did the young sect master had? Who dared to show such impudence in front of him? But the result was, this young lass was perfectly all right, and Li Moying had no temper at all, even trying to make her laugh the entire time. Not to mention feeding her food with that expression with overflowing pampering. It was totally different from the cold, aloof, emotionless expression from his usual self. This was simply two different people. Although those ordinary students seated below the stage could not hear their conversation, but they saw clearly when Li Moying fed Huang Yueli food and even affectionately pinched her face. Many young ladies secretly held their chopsticks so tightly that they broke the chopsticks into two halves. Why did she had such a good life? Why was the person pampered in senior brother Li's embrace not them? Even though these young ladies were very clear that even without Huang Yueli, a peerless genius like Li Moying would not possibly took an interest in them. But this didn't stop their entire hearts from being filled with envy, jealousy and hatred. You can also listen on. When Huang Yueli was finished with the ribs, Li Moying had personally filled a bowl of soup, and holding up the soup spoon, he started feeding her mouth by mouth. In between, Huang Yueli expressed her objections and requested to feed herself. A reasonable request was rebuked by Li Moying as he gave an evil smile. "Lear, do you want me to use my mouth to feed you instead?" "You. Us. Use his mouth." Under everyone's eyes. Huang Yueli's face flushed red instantly as she stared furiously at the man beside her and murmured out a word, "Shameless." Unfortunately, Li Moying's face was extremely thick and didn't think much of it as his right hand steadily raised the soup spoon towards her mouth. She had no choice but to admit that this man was naturally graceful and elegant. Just an action of picking up the soup spoon seemed incomparably respectful and morally upright. Amidst the light vapor, his face revealed a hazy sense of handsome looks which made Huang Yueli go into a slight daze, being fed by him one mouthful after another. After she finished her soup, Li Moying smiled contentedly, feeling that he had successfully stuffed his little fox full. Moreover, he had achieved his motive of displaying conjugal love. Just from Yuan Ziyu's disappointed and frustrated expression, it already made him very delighted. Li Moying spoke out, "Lord Yuan, I've already drank some rounds, and since my Lear and I still need to cultivate, we will make a move back to the academy first." "Good, wait." Li Moying's clothes were tugged as the person who had cut him off was Huang Yueli, who was right beside him. "Lear, what's wrong?" Li Moying rose his eyebrows. His Lear had said that she wanted to leave earlier, so what made her suddenly change her mind? Huang Yueli smiled, "Young Master Yuan, you seem to have forgotten something." Yuan Ziyu's face suddenly turned white. "What's going on?" "Ziyu, what happened earlier?" Yuan Tianhua frowned. Huang Yueli replied, "Lord Yuan, earlier I had a battle with young Master Lu Ziju at the Peach Blossom Dome, but after I had attained victory, your son refused to give me my winnings, so what's the meaning of this? Could it be that he is trying to renege on a debt? I believed in Yuan family, which was why I allowed him to be the judge." Yuan Tianhua went into a blank. "What?" Yuan Ziyu immediately rushed over and explained what happened earlier by his ear. Yuan Tianhua immediately berated him in anger, "You useless fool. Why can't you even do things properly, embarrassing the Yuan family? Miss Bai, how could our Yuan family possibly be such discreditable people? What are you waiting for? Bring the divine martial record here right now." Yuan Ziyu was berated so badly and he was feeling extremely vexed and felt sorry for himself. Who knew that a young lady from a bordering small country was actually the young sect master's fiancée? If he had knew earlier that the terrifying existence behind her was Li Moying, would he even dare to renege on the debt? Don't say renege, from the start, he would not possibly even have any sense of disrespectfulness and would definitely hold her up high without any improper thoughts. He hurriedly took out the divine martial records and handed it to Huang Yueli with both hands. "Miss Bai, this is the divine martial records which you wanted." Huang Yueli didn't stretch out her hand to retrieve it. Yuan Ziyu was left there standing and he felt extremely embarrassed as he raised his head to look at her. Huang Yueli sneered, "Why? Trying to use an earth-grade cultivation method to get rid of me? Are you treating me as a beggar?" Yuan Ziyu just realized that his action of reneging on the debt earlier had completely offended her. So now, not only did she wanted to get back her capital, she was also looking to collect interest. You can also listen on. Yuan Ziyu's expression turned pale as he knew that his Yuan family would probably had to come out with a large amount of blood. His heart was vexed to the extreme. Why didn't he automatically hand her the divine martial record earlier or follow the battle's regulations? Why must he act smart, thinking that he shouldn't offend Lu family? Now the result was, he still had to hand up the divine martial record, so nothing had changed. He still ended up offending Lu family. Moreover, he had gotten into an even bigger problem. But now that he had already reached this step, He had no other alternative and could only admit his defeat. This. Miss Bai, your meaning is. How do you want us to compensate you? He carefully probed. In the end, just one sentence from Yuan Zia made Yuan Tianhua giving him a tight slap. Get lost to one side. What attitude was that? Don't you know how to speak properly to Miss Bai? I'll even things out with you after they have left. Yuan Tianhua threw a stare at his son as he felt resentful that he didn't meet his expectations. This kid, he usually looked intelligent and was street smart, but why was it that at this crucial timing, he failed to catch on? No wonder he had offended young sect master. He initially thought that he was the best candidate for succeeding Yuan family, but from the looks of it now, he probably needed to consider again. Yuan Tianhua hurriedly called out, Men, bring me my 1,000-year scarlet ray vine and also retrieve 100,000 upper-grade spirit stones now. Quick, go now. Yuan Ziyu was listening by the side and his heart almost leapt out. He had not imagined that his own father actually took out such a huge fortune. 100,000 upper-grade spirit stones. If it was brought to the auction house, it was more than enough to buy a better cultivation method than a divine martial record. As for the scarlet ray vine, it was a 7th level fire attributed medicinal herb and its value was originally very high. Adding on to the fact that this vine which Yuan Tianhua had was already of old age, it was practically priceless. After Yuan Tianhua had obtained this 1,000-year scarlet ray vine last year, he could not bear to use it and had considered to send it to Sky Emperor City to hire a high-ranking pill master to refine it into a 7th-level pill. Now he actually took it out as compensation. Wasn't this a little too much? Did he need to come out with so much compensation? Moreover, everyone knew that Sect Master Murong had the intention to marry his own eldest daughter to young Sect Master, and the young lass in front of them was definitely not Miss Murong. Although they look intimate, but if she wanted to marry Li Moying, the hopes were not high. Why was father not clear on the situation? Yuan Ziyu's heart seemed to be sliced as he wanted to say something several times but didn't dare to oppose his father, so he could only swallow his words back. Yuan Tianhua saw his son's expression and knew what he was thinking about and couldn't help but frowned. Very soon, the items he wanted were all sent to the banquet hall. Yuan Tianhua held the box up with both hands and brought it to Huang Yueli. Miss Bai, this fellow had offended you and I'm really sorry about it. I can tell that you're a fire-attributed practitioner and your innate talent is really high. Just nice that this 1,000-year scarlet ray vine is a 7th-level fire-attributed medicinal herb which can be used to supplement your condition. Especially right after you have advanced, taking a refined scarlet ray pill would have the best effect. Huang Tuili took a look at the scarlet ray vine in the box and her eyes lit up as she instantly smiled. Lord Yuan, you're so understanding, so much smarter than your son. Yuan Tianhua's voice was even more respectful. I don't deserve your praise. He had observed Huang Yueli and Li Moying for quite a while, and although those ordinary people only noticed the intimate actions between them, but Yuan Tianhua was not observing these at all. You can also listen on. What Yuan Tianhua was observing was the intonation and knowledge Huang Yueli displayed, the mannerism and how she effortlessly raised the mood. The more he observed, the more heart-rendering he felt. No wonder young Sect Master was so smitten by her that he couldn't even be bothered about Sect Master Murong's eldest daughter. Just from her shocking innate talent and that superior imposing manner could make one tell that she was no ordinary person. The reason why she could behave at will in front of Li Moying was not because he especially pampered her but because they were evenly matched adversaries. In front of a perfect man like young Sect Master, the other women automatically became shorter and was only able to be an accompanier beside him, but Huang Yueli totally did not have that kind of feel. When she and Li Moying stood side by side, that image was in harmony and simply too perfect. Just this alone, eldest Miss Murong was not able to achieve it. He wondered what kind of background did she have. Yuan Tianhua was very good at grabbing opportunities, and after he could tell that Huang Yueli was extraordinary, he immediately decided to bring out his utmost sincerity to appease her anger. Sometimes, offending a person of high ranking might not totally be a bad thing. After all, if one does not know any better, one cannot be held responsible. Instead, this gave him an opportunity to come into contact with her, so if he handled it properly, it might become a destined chance. As expected, Huang Yueli saw his proactiveness and was delighted as she flipped her wrist and kept the 1000-year scarlet ray vine and spirit stones all into her realm ring. This gift of Yuan Tianhua's had made her extremely satisfied. The 1000-year scarlet ray vine was one of the main medical herbs which was required for the 4th transformation 9 phoenix transformations, which she was cultivating, and she had been worried about looking for this. This Yuan Tianhua was really on track. Since Lord Yuan is so sincere, then the things that had happened earlier is nullified. For Yuan family to have operated for so many years in Sky Cloud City, you'd probably have to consider the relationships with the other families, and you're in a difficult position. I can totally understand that. Li Moying saw his little fox showing off her little fangs, looking extremely adorable, as his gaze also started to turn warm. Along with that, he felt Yuan Tianhua was much more pleasing to the eye now. I've noted down Lord Yuan's goodwill. Yuan Ziyu saw how rightful Huang Yueli was when she accepted the gifts so immodestly, and his heart was simply bleeding. Even he had no authority to use so many spirit stones. But Yuan Tianhua was so happy that his eyes squinted from his smiling face. He knew from young sect master's meaning that today's matter was already over. And young sect master had noticed him. This money was totally well spent. The other students below the stage were so shocked that they couldn't even speak a single word. Yuan family's head. An extremely important man holding a decisive role, one who could produce clouds and rain with his hands. Forget the fact that he tried to get into the good books of Li Moying, but because of one sentence which Huang Yueli said, he had brought out so much money. Such a huge amount of spirit stones and that 1000-year scarlet ray vine. Even if it was to a large family like Yuan family, it was an enormous expense. Moreover, when Lord Yuan did this, there was no forced intention on his expression, and it seemed as though he had gained some huge advantage instead. Huang Yueli was totally immodest, and her attitude towards Yuan Tianhua was similar to talking to one of her own subordinates. What on earth was this? They must be dreaming, right? It must be it. How did things turn out this way? Li Moying saw Huang Yueli keeping her compensation and pinched her cheek indulgently. Little money face, are you satisfied now? We should get going. You can also listen on. All right, thank you Lord Yuan for today's hospitality. We shall make a move first. Li Moying held her waist as he led her to leave the venue together. Yuan Tianhua respectfully called out behind them, if the both of you meet with any trouble, you're welcome to drop by Yuan residence to look for me. The Yuan residence's door will always be open for the both of you. The minute Li Moying left, Yuan Ziyu couldn't hold himself back any further as he rushed towards Yuan Tianhua with his face filled with anxiety. Father! How could you bring out so much spirit stones at one go? And even give away that 1000-year scarlet ray vine to that lass? No matter what, our Yuan family also have a Yuan elder who is of virtue and prestige in the sect. Young sect master couldn't possibly do anything to us. Moreover, although that Bairuoli's potential is really not too bad, but her background isn't good at all and might not be able to marry young sect master. A loud "pa" was heard. With his hand on his face, Yuan Ziyu looked at Yuan Tianhua in disbelief. He had always been pampered in the family, so even his father had never hit him before. But now, at the banquet in front of so many guests who had yet to leave, he actually gave him a tight slap. Yuan Tianhua stared at him. Useless fellow, what do you know? You don't even have the foresight at all. From how I see it, I must have pampered you rotten usually, to make you imagine that you're the successor to Sky Cloud City's #1 large family and unequaled in the universe. It seemed that your cultivation speed had also slowed down recently. This will not do. From today onwards, you're to go into closed-door cultivation, and before you break through to the 4th stage realm, you're not allowed to have any more social interaction. You're not allowed to hold a banquet like this in the future. Yuan family's argument between the father and son duo was faintly transmitted to Huang Yueli and Li Moying's ears. But both of them didn't bother about it at all. By the time they reached Huang Yueli's courtyard, it was already evening time again. Huang Yueli took an inventory check on today's winnings. Just thinking about the short trip she made today with a sudden windfall made her heart leapt with joy as the corners of her lips curled upwards, smiling as though she was a little kitty who had been successful in stealing a bite. Little thing, you're smiling so brightly today. Looks like your eyes really opened wide at the sight of profit. Huang Yueli turned back when she heard what he said. Li Moying had already taken off his outer robe and just wearing a thin inner clothing, bearing a look which seemed like he was about to go to bed as he leaned against the bed looking at her with a languid expression. This piece of inner clothing was made out of wild silk yarn and the defense stats were very high. It keeps one warm during winter and cool during summer, but was extremely light, as though it could not hide anything. A large part of his fair, smooth yet robust chest could be seen clearly, and even the 2 spots on his chest could be seen indistinctly, looking extremely seductive. Huang Yueli turned around to take a look and her nose nearly bled. Meow, this man was simply too devilish and moreover much too shameless. Why, you? What are you trying to do? Haven't I warned you before that if you are going to spend the night here, you're not allowed to get fresh with me? Li Moying's smile was full of charm as he licked the corners of his lips in fascination, but his tone was completely full of innocence. Lear, what could I possibly do? Don't frame me. Have I moved my hands or moved my legs? I've only just changed a set of clothes. Don't you change into your pajamas before you sleep? Or am I right to say that your thoughts aren't pure at all, and the minute you saw me, you started to think of some images which you shouldn't be thinking about? Huang Yueli wasn't as thick-skinned as he was, and she couldn't win him in words, so she could only roll her eyes back. I've given you an inch, so you better not take a mile. You can also listen on. Li Moying cried out, what's called give you an inch and you want a mile? Lear, you're too much. Earlier I had played the part of a valiant hero saving a damsel in distress, but not only did you not give me an earth-shattering hot kiss, you actually said that about me. You made me so sad. Huang Yueli stared at him. That's right, I haven't asked you yet. Why did you appear at the Yuan family's banquet earlier? This man's ranking was so high in Celestial Light sect, so how would a mere Yuan family be able to invite him? Li Moying laughed. What kind of question is that? Quite a number of students with status in Celestial Light Academy received the Honorary Association's invitation to the banquet, and since I'm martial arts stages ranking #1, although Yuan Ziyu didn't dare to offend me, he would still act smart and send me an invite. Huang Yueli shot a glance at him, a female. Li Moying laughed dryly. I think so. I think her surname is Liu. I knew it. Huang Yueli mumbled in dissatisfaction. To automatically send an invite to Li Moying, it would definitely be one of those starry-eyed female students. This man was simply too popular in Celestial Light Academy. What's so good about him? All he had was a set of good looks, and so many female students were willing to kneel down and lick his shoes. Alright, his mannerism was extremely outstanding. Alright, his innate talent was much stronger than other people. But was there a need to be like this? It sounded like the person who handed him the invite was Lu Ziyi. Humph, that blind woman, why didn't she punch her a few more times earlier? Huang Yueli pursed her lips in annoyance as she continued, you know that her surname is Liu. I don't think much of her. Just hand you the invite and you happily attended the banquet? She wasn't as beautiful as her, nor was she as strong, so how would Li Moying bend according to her will? Li Moying kept a close eye on her angry face, and hearing her sour words, he couldn't help but laughed out, I say, Lear, are you jealous? J.E. Jealous? How is that possible? You're thinking too much. Huang Yueli's eyes opened wide and she denied flatly. A terror formed within her heart secretly, with a feeling that she had been exposed. What was she thinking about? Was she in a position to bother about Li Moying's matters? She wasn't even prepared to marry him. Li Moying laughed as he stretched out his hand and grabbed Huang Yueli, who was standing not too far away, by her wrist, and using some strength, he pulled her over to him. Huang Yueli was tugged so hard that she lost her balance and fell onto the mattress, just nice pressing against his chest. Why, you. What are you trying to do? Let me get up. Huang Yueli tried to climb up but was held on tightly by him. Li Moying, didn't you agree not to get fresh with me? As the young sect master of Celestial Light Academy, how could you not keep your words? She used force to push herself away from Li Moying's chest. Li Moying laughed lightly and suddenly got close to her ear as he laughed in a low tone, Lear, don't be jealous. How could it be possible that I would attend the banquet for other women? I don't even remember how that woman looks like. But you still remember her surname is Li. Huang Yueli spat out. The minute she said that, she started regretting as she turned around and saw Li Moying gaze, which seemed to display an indistinct smile, and she wanted badly to hide inside a hole in the ground. What was she saying earlier? It really sounded like she was jealous, and this man had definitely misunderstood when he heard that. Luckily Li Moying knew he could not push her too much, and this round, he actually didn't expose her but started to explain by himself. I had long forgotten about that matter about the invitation. This afternoon when I came back to look for you, I saw a young lady standing at the entrance of your courtyard. You can also listen on. I saw her acting suspiciously and asked her over to interrogate her. She was extremely anxious, saying that you had offended a woman in the honorary association by the surname Liu, and even ran over to Liu residence rashly with the intention to wreak havoc. She was worried you would be at a disadvantage but didn't know how to find you. Aw. That's Sister Sue. Huang Yueli cried out in shock. Li Moying continued, and that woman claims she's called Sue something. Anyway, when I heard about this matter, I was worried, so I went over. Huang Yueli sighed, heavens, Sister Sue simply loves to ask things and she's extremely naggy. She would definitely ask me what relationship we have. Li Moying indifferently swept her a glance as he emotionlessly gave her a strike. She won't question you because she had already asked me directly, and I've already told her that I'm your fiancé. Huang Yueli was exasperated as she snorted, Why, you, how could you go around spouting nonsense? Li Moying's expression instantly turned slightly sinister as he replied in an extremely annoyed manner, What spouting nonsense? Am I not your fiancé? Earlier in the Yuan residence, when you needed to use me, you said I'm your fiancé. Isn't it a little too quick for you to destroy the bridge after you've crossed the river? You're not going to admit it now. Ugh, why did it sounded like she was at fault? Moreover, your denial now is too late. Earlier at Yuan Residence's banquet, those students with some status in Celestial Light Academy had all attended, and all of them heard about our engagement. By tomorrow, the whole school will know about it. It's too late for you to deny this. Huang Yueli discovered sorrowfully that this really seemed to be the case. Why was there always a way to get tangled with Li Moying and herself? Li Moying saw her despondent look and his tone immediately turned stern. You little lass, can you let me save some effort? Can't you quietly stay in the academy and cultivate? Moreover, if you wanted to go to the Yuan residence, how could you not even inform me? Huang Yueli explained, I only decided at the last minute, so where can I find a chance to tell you? Moreover, it's not a must for me to inform you, right? That kind of level that Yuan Ziyu has, I can deal with him myself and won't be bullied. Huang Yueli didn't thought much of it as she talked on. The more Li Moying heard, the uglier his expression became, and with a flip, he pressed Huang Yueli below himself. Hey, you! Huang Yueli originally wanted to scold him, but on seeing Li Moying's gloomy like dark water expression, her heart jerked and shut her mouth up. This man, he really seemed like a natural superior. When he got really angry, even she became flustered. Li Moying stared at the young lady with love and hate in his eyes. This little thing was both smart and powerful. Even a man like him who had eyes on the top of his head often felt shock and admiration from her performance. But sometimes she was just too overconfident and he didn't know what to do about it. Thinking on, he started to restrain his imposing manner and breathed deeply. Lear, do you know that I'd be worried about you? I know that your ability is very strong and you have many aces which can help save your life. But I will still worry about you. Even if you just treat me like a friend, can you please consider my feelings, okay? Not knowing why, when this man acted overbearing, Huang Yueli felt that she could resist against him with some underlying power. But once he relaxed his stance, Huang Yueli felt as though she had done something wrong to him and started feeling guilty. You can also listen on. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.